Welcome to the Ultimate SC-900 Exam Masterclass. Are you ready to crack the SC-900 exam in one go? You're in the right place. In this session, we'll arm you with powerful insights and hand-picked questions that can make all the difference in your exam performance. We've scanned the web using intelligent crawlers to gather the most critical and high-impact questions, all compiled into one powerful PDF resource. You can download it from the link in the description. Not only will we explore these must-practice questions, but we'll also share real exam experiences and pro tips to give you that competitive edge. Let's dive into the key questions that could shape your success. Question 1. What can you specify in Microsoft 365 sensitivity labels? A. How long files must be preserved? B. When to archive an email message? C. Which watermark to add to files? D. Where to store files? Correct answer, C. Which watermark to add to files? Explanation. Sensitivity labels can apply watermarks to documents to mark sensitivity. This helps users recognize and handle confidential content properly. Question 2. What can you protect by using the Information Protection solution in the Microsoft 365 Compliance Center? A. Computers from zero-day exploits. B. Users from phishing attempts. C. Files from malware and viruses. D. Sensitive data from being exposed to unauthorized users. Correct answer D. Sensitive data from being exposed to unauthorized users. Explanation. Microsoft Information Protection helps ensure only authorized users access sensitive data. It prevents accidental or intentional data exposure. Question 3. Which Microsoft portal provides information about how Microsoft manages privacy, compliance, and security? A. Microsoft Service Trust Portal. B. Compliance Manager. C. Microsoft 365 Compliance Center. D. Microsoft Support. Correct answer A. Microsoft Service Trust Portal. Explanation. The Service Trust Portal provides access to audit reports and compliance documentation. It supports transparency for privacy, compliance, and trust. Question 4. In a core e-discovery workflow, what should you do before you can search for content? A. Create an e-discovery hold. B. Run express analysis. C. Configure attorney-client privilege detection. D. Export and download results. Correct answer A. Create an e-discovery hold. Explanation. An e-discovery hold preserves data from deletion during legal investigations. This allows you to search and collect relevant information later. Question 5. Which Microsoft 365 feature can you use to restrict users from sending email messages that contain lists of customers and their associated credit card numbers? A. Retention policies. B. Data loss prevention (DLP) policies. C. Conditional access policies. D. Information barriers. Correct answer B. Data loss prevention (DLP) policies. Explanation. DLP policies detect and block sharing of sensitive information like credit card data. They help organizations prevent data leaks and comply with regulations. Question 6. Which Microsoft portal provides information about how Microsoft Cloud services comply with regulatory standards, such as International Organization for Standardization (ISO)? A. The Microsoft Endpoint Manager Admin Center. B. Azure Cost Management Plus Billing. C. Microsoft Service Trust Portal. D. The Azure Active Directory Admin Center. Correct answer, C. Microsoft Service Trust Portal. Explanation. The portal contains audit reports, certifications, and compliance guides. It helps organizations assess Microsoft's adherence to regulatory standards. Question 7. Which two Azure resources can a network security group, NSG, be associated with? A. A virtual network subnet. B. A network interface. C. A resource group. D. A virtual network. E. An Azure App Service web app. Correct answer A and B. A virtual network subnet. A network interface. Explanation. NSGs control traffic to subnets and NICs in Azure virtual networks. They apply filtering rules for inbound and outbound traffic. Question 8. Which score measures an organization's progress in completing actions that help reduce risks associated to data protection and regulatory standards? A. Microsoft Secure Score. B. Productivity Score. C. Secure Score in Azure Security Center. D. Compliance Score. Correct answer D. Compliance Score. Explanation. The compliance score tracks how well your organization meets compliance goals. It provides guidance to reduce risks related to regulations and data protection. Question 9. What do you use to provide real-time integration between Azure Sentinel and another security source? A. Azure AD Connect. B. A log analytics workspace. C. Azure Information Protection. D. A connector. Correct answer D. A connector. Explanation. Connectors let you bring data from third-party and Microsoft services into Sentinel. This enables real-time monitoring and threat response. Question 10. Which Microsoft 365 feature can you use to restrict communication and the sharing of information between members of two departments at your organization? A. Sensitivity label policies. B. Customer lockbox. C. Information barriers. D. Privileged access management (PAM). Correct answer C. Information barriers. Explanation. Information barriers help enforce policies that prevent communication or file sharing between specific user groups, ideal for scenarios like separating investment teams from sales teams. Question 11. In the shared responsibility model for an Azure deployment, what is Microsoft solely responsible for managing? A. The management of mobile devices. B. The permissions for the user data stored in Azure. C. The creation and management of user accounts. D. The management of the physical hardware. Correct answer D. The management of the physical hardware. Explanation. Microsoft is responsible for physical infrastructure and data center operations. Customers manage their data, identities, and access. Question 12. In the Microsoft Cloud Adoption Framework for Azure, which two phases are addressed before the Ready phase? A. Plan. B. Manage. C. Adopt. D. Govern. E. Define strategy. Correct answer A and E. Plan. Define strategy. Explanation. Define strategy sets goals for cloud adoption, while plan aligns business and technical preparations. Both are necessary before building the cloud environment. Question 13. What is an example of encryption at rest? A. Encrypting communications by using a site-to-site VPN. B. Encrypting a virtual machine disk. C. Accessing a website by using an encrypted HTTPS connection. D. Sending an encrypted email. Correct answer B. Encrypting a virtual machine disk. Explanation. Encryption at rest protects stored data such as virtual machine disks. It ensures data remains secure even if physical storage is accessed. Question 14. Which three statements accurately describe the guiding principles of Zero Trust? A. Define the perimeter by physical locations. B. Use identity as the primary security boundary. C. Always verify the permissions of a user explicitly. D. Always assume that the user system can be breached. E. Use the network as the primary security boundary. Correct answer: B, C, and D. Use identity as the primary security boundary. Always verify the permissions of a user explicitly. Always assume that the user system can be breached. Explanation: Zero Trust requires strict identity verification and assumes no part of the network is safe. It minimizes trust and verifies everything by default. Question 15. What can you use to provide a user with a 2-hour window to complete an administrative task in Azure? A. Azure Active Directory Azure AD, Privileged Identity Management PIM. B. Azure Multi-Factor Authentication MFA. C. Azure Active Directory Azure AD, Identity Protection. D. Conditional Access Policies. Correct answer: A. Azure Active Directory Azure AD, Privileged Identity Management PIM. Explanation: PIM allows temporary, time-limited access to privileged roles. It helps reduce standing permissions and enforce least privilege. Question 16. In a hybrid identity model, what can you use to sync identities between Active Directory Domain Services (ADDS) and Azure Active Directory Azure AD? A. Active Directory Federation Services ADFS. B. Microsoft Sentinel. C. Azure AD Connect. D. Azure AD Privileged Identity Management PIM. Correct answer: C. Azure AD Connect. Explanation: Azure AD Connect synchronizes on-premises identities with Azure AD. It enables seamless sign-in and unified identity across environments. Question 17. What is the purpose of Azure Active Directory Azure AD password protection? A. To control how often users must change their passwords. B. To identify devices to which users can sign in without using multi-factor authentication (MFA). C. To encrypt a password by using globally recognized encryption standards. D. To prevent users from using specific words in their passwords. Correct answer: D. To prevent users from using specific words in their passwords. Explanation: Password protection blocks weak or commonly used passwords. It reduces the chances of users creating easily guessable passwords. Question 18. Which Azure Active Directory Azure AD feature can you use to evaluate group membership and automatically remove users that no longer require membership in a group? A. Access reviews. B. Managed identities. C. Conditional access policies. D. Azure AD Identity Protection. Correct answer: A. Access reviews. Explanation: Access reviews ensure users only retain necessary group memberships. This helps enforce least privilege and maintain security. Question 19. Which Azure Active Directory Azure AD feature can you use to provide just-in-time (JIT) access to manage Azure resources? A. Conditional access policies. B. Azure AD Identity Protection. C. Azure AD Privileged Identity Management PIM. D. Authentication Method Policies. Correct answer: C. Azure AD Privileged Identity Management PIM. Explanation: PIM allows time-limited and approval-based access to sensitive roles. It helps reduce the risk of persistent elevated access. Question 20. Which 3 authentication methods can be used by Azure Multi-Factor Authentication (MFA)? A. Text message SMS. B. Microsoft Authenticator app. C. Email verification. D. Phone call. E. Security question. Correct answer A, B, and D. Text message SMS. Microsoft Authenticator app. Phone call. Explanation. Azure MFA supports SMS, phone calls, and app-based authentication. These methods provide layered security beyond passwords. Question 21. Which Microsoft 365 feature can you use to restrict communication and the sharing of information between members of two departments at your organization? A. Sensitivity label policies. B. Customer lockbox. C. Information barriers. D. Privileged access management (PAM). Correct answer, C. Information barriers. Explanation. Information barriers prevent communication between specified groups. They are commonly used for compliance or regulatory separation. Question 22. Which three authentication methods does Windows Hello for Business support? A. Fingerprint. B. Facial recognition. C. PIN. D. Email verification. E. Security question. Correct answer A, B, and C. Fingerprint. Facial recognition. PIN. Explanation. Windows Hello for Business supports biometric and PIN authentication. It provides secure, passwordless sign-in for Windows devices. Question 23. You have an Azure subscription. You need to implement approval-based, time-bound role activation. What should you use? A. Windows Hello for Business. B. Azure Active Directory Azure AD Identity Protection. C. Access Reviews in Azure Active Directory Azure AD. D. Azure Active Directory Azure AD Privileged Identity Management (PIM). Correct answer D. Azure Active Directory Azure AD Privileged Identity Management (PIM). Explanation. PIM enables just-in-time access with approval workflows and time limits. It reduces the risk of standing administrative privileges. Question 24. When security defaults are enabled for an Azure Active Directory Azure AD tenant, which two requirements are enforced? A. All users must authenticate from a registered device. B. Administrators must always use Azure Multi-Factor Authentication (MFA). C. Azure Multi-Factor Authentication (MFA) registration is required for all users. D. All users must authenticate by using passwordless sign-in. E. All users must authenticate by using Windows Hello. Correct answer, B and C. Administrators must always use Azure MFA. Azure Multi-Factor Authentication (MFA) registration is required for all users. Explanation. Security defaults enforce MFA registration for all users and require MFA for admins. These defaults help protect against common identity-based attacks. Question 25. Which type of identity is created when you register an application with Active Directory Azure AD? A. A user account. B. A user-assigned managed identity. C. A system-assigned managed identity. D. A service principal. Correct answer D. A service principal. Explanation. Registering an app in Azure AD creates a service principal. It acts as the application's identity for authentication and authorization. Question 26. Which three tasks can be performed by using Azure Active Directory Azure AD Identity Protection? A. Configure external access for partner organizations. B. Export risk detection to third-party utilities. C. Automate the detection and remediation of identity-based risks. D. Investigate risks that relate to user authentication. E. Create and automatically assign sensitivity labels to data. Correct answer B, C, and D. Export risk detection to third-party utilities. Automate detection and remediation of identity-based risks. Investigate risks that relate to user authentication. Explanation. Identity protection helps detect risky sign-ins and user behavior. It also enables automatic responses and reporting for identity threats. Question 27. What are two capabilities of Microsoft Defender for Endpoint? A. Automated investigation and remediation. B. Transport encryption. C. Shadow IT detection. D. Attack surface reduction. Correct answer A and D. Automated investigation and remediation. Attack surface reduction. Explanation. Defender for Endpoint reduces potential attack vectors and investigates threats. It automates responses to contain and remediate breaches. Question 28. You have a Microsoft 365 E3 subscription. You plan to audit user activity by using the Unified Audit Log and Basic Audit. For how long will the audit records be retained? A. 15 days. B. 30 days. C. 90 days. D. 180 days. Correct answer D. 180 days. Explanation. With an E3 license, audit logs are retained for 180 days. This allows extended tracking and investigation of user activity. Question 29. Which Microsoft 365 compliance feature can you use to encrypt content automatically based on specific conditions? A. Content search. B. Sensitivity labels. C. Retention policies. D. E-discovery. Correct answer B. Sensitivity labels. Explanation. Sensitivity labels can automatically apply encryption, such as restricting access or enabling rights management, based on conditions like file content or user group. Question 30. Which type of identity is created when you register an application with Active Directory Azure AD? A. A user account. B. A user-assigned managed identity. C. A system-assigned managed identity. D. A service principal. Correct answer D. A service principal. Explanation. A service principal is the identity used by apps to access Azure resources securely. It enables permissions and token-based authentication for the app. Check the description for the PDF download link and don't forget to subscribe to this channel for upcoming episodes. Thank you.